Hello and welcome back to another video. It's probably been about 2.5 years since I posted, but I'm back with you today in glorious overcast Margate, and today we're talking about the 90mm focal length for the Leica M system. Here I've got a very nice 90mm Summicron. But this video is not going to be just about this lens, it's more going to be about the experience of shooting telephotos on rangefinders. Some of you might know that you can get a 135mm lens for the M system, but I think the 90 is the reasonable upper limit. I've always enjoyed the 90mm focal length. I feel like when you're using a wide lens, you're taking a photo. If you have a 21mm lens, it's a direction. A 28mm lens will give you a scene. A 35mm will give you an event. A 50 will give you a person. And a 90 will just give you a thing. I can imagine if you have a crowded room, that the 21 will have everyone in the shot, but the 90 will let you cut through the mess, cut through the chaos, and just give you that single subject. So that's the kind of shot I'll go for today. Follow along, we'll see what photos I can get, and we'll see what the 90mm can do. So here's my first shot, this slightly dilapidated looking tower block. I like the 90 for its ability to pick things out without clutter, and that one figure on the beach I think adds a certain moodiness to this frame. I stumbled upon this shot of a Bible propped up in someone's window, and they had a frame that held it on a specific page. I didn't stop and read the page, but I thought it was an interesting thing to stumble upon. I like this shot of the cormorant drying its wings on the post at the end of the Lido. So I've walked down the beach a bit. With these 90mm lenses, it can be quite tempting to stay far away from the subject and just have it like an artillery turret firing over the foreground. But it still helps to get a little bit closer, and in this instance I think that by walking over the sand I remove that foreground, I make things a little bit more present. So let's see how the shot comes out. I like this shot, kind of peaceful, kind of abstract. There's that funny pattern of light on the water, and I can't tell if that's to do with the tide or if there's a slight development error, but I like this one. You can see in the B-roll how far away this lighthouse was, and I think that that elongated perspective makes it seem more peaceful, maybe even a bit more painterly than if it was something that was right on me. If you follow my Instagram, you know that I often take pictures of lighthouses, so it's something that once you see, you can't pass up. Here we've got a rather sad looking sunken boat. It's one of those things you see in seaside towns. There's always one that's sunk and the owner hasn't come and collected it. This image I feel really encapsulates the arm's length feeling that I'm going to waffle on a lot about at the end of this video. And here's a Gormley statue at the end of a pier. Looks very morose. Again, this is probably a good 200 meters from the point where I took the photo. I like this shot down the street with the big, ominous Lido looking orange orb. I'm going to take the shot from the other side of the street so I don't have to have quite so much of the cars. Here's a Lido that's seen better days. It's a nice backdrop, but I feel this scene could really benefit from a subject in that front left foreground. And here's an image with a subject. This guy was recording his rap TikTok or music video, and it gives something to that moody scene. It's a good day for black and white. There's blues, greys, and murky grey, white clouds over this way, but there's not really much colour. It's quite a monochromatic scene. I think what I'll do is walk down, take a picture of the sea, and there's that sort of sand break thing going on. And then yeah, walk down the beach, up the cliffs, and see what we can find. I like these paths up to the road. They've cut them through the chalk, so they're quite steep, and it's a slight abstract nature to this shot with the two bridges and the different levels. I absolutely love Lidos. I don't know if there was some sort of formative time in my life when I was big into swimming. If it was before I started forming memories, but something about enclosed water versus angry water really speaks to me. So I just finished my roll of black and white. I must admit, it took me longer than I expected, so I'm not going to take a full roll of colour, maybe half a roll. We'll see what I can do. I like this shot. You get the whole abstract repeating pattern thing broken by those architectural flourishes. And then the one guy who's got really strong views on the war in Ukraine. I think it adds something having a very even pattern and then just hang Putin. I'm sorry that I didn't take any portraits on this this outing, and I know that a lot of people will be interested in using the 90f2 for that purpose. Personally, I prefer 50s, so I'm a little bit biased, and I do see the advantage in the 90 for that close cropped headshot kind of feel. The 90 f2 is about the limit of what I'd say you can reliably focus with handheld, particularly on film. Leica actually make a 90mm f1.5, and I've never actually shot with one. I think they showed me one in a shop once, and it's massive. I mean, it's like the 330mm Coke cans. Feels like you're mounting one of those on your camera, but to reliably get focus with that on film at f1.5, I think would be a bit dicey. This I trust. I've shot it on a digital M to the point where I back my rangefinder use, but I've used this on film happily wide open, and it is I'd say 98% hit rate on the target. If you take it down to f4, you're going to be absolutely fine. Obviously that's the same for both, but it's not something that you should be worried about. This is a little bit technical, but if you're watching this channel, you're probably familiar with the M rangefinder system. But if I just take this lens off, this little cam, I'm going to line my finger up above it, that silver round looking device, that's the actual rangefinder cam. I could press that and you can see the rangefinder move, but it's fragile and I don't want to start jabbing my fingers into the mount. But the way it works is the lens focusing heliocoid, and again, if I twist that, you might be able to see that move slightly. It pressures that cam, which moves the range-finding focus system. Anyway, the reason I'm going into all this is that the movement that, let's say, 5 degrees of barrel rotation makes on a 90 is actually visible to the naked eye. You can kind of see the heliocoid moving. When you do that kind of motion with a 135, this moves such a tiny amount, and therefore the rangefinder collimator moves such a tiny amount that you can never really be confident of focus. You could move the focus point 20 centimeters between let's say 3 meters and 3.2 meters, and actually your image would barely change with a 135 because of how slight that difference is. But with the 90 you will see it, and then you can obviously have that snap into sharp focus. You know what, don't take my advice on this. I am confident with what I'm saying, but if you go into a shop, just say, oh, can I try a 135 on one of your recent M's? You'll see what I mean about the difference in the focus being absolutely impossible to use. And actually, I suspect that's the reason why, well, apart from size and weight, that the 135s, they come in, I think the fastest 135 is there's probably some weird one in the 70s that was a 2.8, but I think if you buy a 135 now, it will be a 3.4. I think they call it an apotellite or something odd like that. Just if you're thinking, wow, I really like this video and telephotos on them sounds great, and I love how small they are, and I love that you're able to focus with them confidently, but I want more reach, and I want to take photos of things with a 135 lens. Don't assume that all the benefits I've ascribed to the 90 also count for the 135. Go and try it. The rangefinder patch is tiny. I mean, and if you know the size of the focusing area for the M, well, you can if you've got it, you can use your check-in lever. If you go to the 35mm one, it will actually show you the 90mm. If you go to all the way to the 35mm one, the middle one is 135, and it is tiny, and it's not something you can be confident with. I'm waffling. The size of the lens is also very indicative of the M90mm. And actually, if I just take this off the body quickly, I've got a 50mm lens as well. And for fairness, I'm going to remove the rear cap. You can see, if I hold these up to you, they're not that dissimilar. Obviously, they both are smaller than their SLR counterparts. But you don't have that kind of telephoto, front-heavy, difficult to put in a bag. I mean, that is the same length and narrower than the 50mm for basically all SLRs. I feel there's a real peace and calm to images taken with the 90mm. Because you're not in the scene, and because no one in the scene can really acknowledge you because of that slightly added distance. Let's say if you were shooting with a 50mm, you'd be an extra, maybe as much as 15-20 feet closer than if you shoot with a 90. It can have a real sense of otherworldliness, a calm and peace that I find quite pleasing. It also lends itself to more abstract shots. As an example, we'll take that one of the high-rise building. It's able to dissect and cut out a small piece of something so familiar, but because you don't see the edges of it, because you just get that repeated pattern of the windows, it can make it more abstract. When shooting the 90, you can keep your scene and your subject at arm's length. If you think about the relative distances, if I was to shoot a 50mm, I could be, say, 15 feet from the subject. If I was shooting the 90mm, to get a similar framing, I'd be 25, maybe even 30 feet away from the subject. So it's very much me, the photographer, here, and then the scene, the subject, over there, as opposed to that kind of interplay you get if you're approaching the scene. It's not to say that I don't want the subjects to see me, but it's to say that if they did see me, they wouldn't assume that I was photographing the scene. It's sort of I feel there's a boundary at around 15-20 feet, after which you wouldn't say that you cease being here and you start being over there. When you cross that boundary, there's a sort of peacefulness and arm's length, calm feeling that I think the 90 really gives you. It's an interesting sort of concept of how far a camera has to be away from you before it sort of factors in your understanding at all. If you live in a city that's heavily surveilled with CCTV cameras, you'll often find that if you see one at eye level, you'll notice it. And if you see one that's, well, if there is one that is 25 or 30 feet away, they put them on those posts, or sometimes they're mounted on the roof in train stations. You just won't see it. There's a boundary of like, I guess you have personal space, which is a sort of 5-foot radius, and then you have a second 20-foot radius, which is things near me. And if you go outside of that boundary, it's almost like some things just cease to cross your mind. I'm waffling. Try it next time you see someone photographing something. You'll notice that a 28mm, 35, 50 exists in that circle. You're in that 20-foot radius. But the 90, you can be outside of it, and it just is like you're just a different plane of existence. I kind of appreciate it. It's more like you're an observer than someone interacting. I don't know. I'm worried that this makes me sound really antisocial, as in like, I like shooting telephotos because I never have to talk to anyone. But no, they are good. Well, thanks very much for watching. I enjoyed making this, and it has been a while. Based on my track record, I probably won't see you again until 2026. But if you did enjoy this video, please leave a like, a thumbs up. I really enjoy reading your comments, and not only just on YouTube, but some people go through the link thing and find my Instagram. And I actually had a few comments in the last couple of months saying, please do another video. If you do want another video, then one, I'm flattered. I'll do my best. But two, give me the idea for the video, because I do find it's not that I can't come up with videos, but I do find there are some videos that I think would be really interesting, and people are like, why are you telling us about this? I thought about doing one about how to use manual flash and how the guide number maths works. There's two ways of doing it. You can either sit there and do the maths, or you can actually have crib sheets, and I can teach you the 1 meter, 2 meter, 3 meter thing, or give me an idea. Maybe I make a video about Polaroid film, or how to shoot Instax. And I'm waffling. I'm going to cut the video here and see you in 2026.